Fever Nation, I was prepared to do a video on Stephanie White and the officiating. But the Fever played in such a way I could not hang this L on the officiating or Stephanie White, even though if I reached, I could. But I have a problem when a team misses 10 layups. I started watching the game late, Fever Nation. I caught the end of the first quarter, right before Mitchell hit that three. Just a couple of plays before that, when Stephanie White put in her experiment at point guard. Raven Johnson is not a point guard. Full stop. She is not a point guard. That is not what Dawn Staley had Raven Johnson doing at South Carolina. All Raven Johnson was responsible for was getting the ball over half court under 10 seconds and getting the ball into the hand of the first open person she sees. That was her responsibility. She was not a playmaker at South Carolina. This front office, Amber Cox and Stephanie White, seem to think they're going to make Raven Johnson into a point guard at the pro level when the game is so much faster and the players are far more talented. See, at South Carolina, they just had more talent than most of the teams that they played. That's why they're a constant fixture in the Final Four. Final Four is about talent. When you break it down, it is about talent and chemistry. Talent and team chemistry. That's what the Final Four is about. South Carolina has as much talent now as your Connecticut's, as your, when Caitlin Clark was there, Iowa, as your, what are the other teams, the other fixtures in the Final Four? LSU, a lot of the SEC, or a couple of the SEC teams. These are your fixtures in the Final Four based on talent. Now when you come to the W, all the talent is spread out throughout the league, but most of your players 1 through 7 are probably your most talented on that team. Okay? Depending on what team it is. So now you have Amber Cox thinking they're gonna, and Stephanie White, they're going to create a point guard at the pro level in the W. Absolutely asinine and ridiculous. What player has Stephanie White coached up to make them anything worthwhile? I'll wait. What player? Name me anybody. Where does this player exist that Stephanie White took from scratch and made them into a whatever? Where does this person exist? And Amber Cox and Kelly Croscott and Lynn Dunn were sold on Raven Johnson. Look, I ain't got nothing against Raven Johnson. Stephanie White, Lynn Dunn put this girl in this untenable position when they drafted her in the first round. Nobody but this front office in the Fever had this girl going before the third round. Nobody had Raven Johnson going that high because people that watch the game understand what Dawn Staley was asking her to do. And it's not what Stephanie is trying to get out of her at the pro level. No one was paying attention. You go back and look at draft night and look at Amber Cox just opining about, oh, she played for the best point guard that ever played the game. Oh my goodness. She's just a sponge. She's just going to be great for us. How? How do you even arrive at that conclusion? Dawn Staley didn't have her doing that. Dawn Staley had her doing a few things, which was all that Raven could manage. Look how on this play that we're going to get to, Raven Johnson had 2 consecutive turnovers trying to play Caitlin Clark. She doesn't know. She was not asked to be a playmaker at South Carolina. You going to get her to the pro level and then try to make her a playmaker? That is asinine. That is so what? Stephanie, who have you developed? You know your Achilles heel at Vanderbilt was player development, Stephanie. You have never developed a player from scratch, Stephanie. You have not taken a player from where they were to where you want them to be. Look at KK Timpson. She's still playing slow. Not in terms of running up and down the floor. She's still playing the same way she has when y'all drafted her. She's a wonderful talent. I like KK. KK is, and you heard it here first. KK is going to be one of the first players at her height to probably dunk the ball. And when it happened, y'all remember, you heard it here first. MMP said it first. Watch her on the rebounds. She rebounds like almost like and I don't trying to take nothing away from y'all. She rebounds like a guy. She catches the ball at rim level in some cases. Some of the rebounds she's at the rim. And so what is KK, 6'2"? Watch that. When she does it, y'all remember, y'all heard it here first, MMP, all right? It's KK Timpson. But look how you have to get the ball to KK in certain instances. You don't need to pass the ball to KK away from the rim. Why are they all passing the ball to KK around the three-point arc? You have a player that is on a developmental contract that could spread the floor, but they refuse to put her on the 12-man roster, and it is alarming. You went and got out Grace Van Sleuth or whatever this girl, and you didn't need her. You're not even playing the young lady. She may as well have stayed where she was. She's not even being used properly. And yet you have a player on the team, practicing with the team every day since she was drafted, and refuse to put her on the floor because you know once you all put this young lady in the game, playing around Caitlin Clark, she is going to be the next whatever in terms of three-point shooting. She can spread the floor. You have to put a big on her. She's 6'4". A guard is not going to be able to defend her above the arc. You're going to have to bring a big away from the basket, which is an advantage for the team, which creates more rebounding opportunities on the offensive end of the floor. But the gross, palpable levels of ineptitude of the head coach and this front office and Lynn Dunn will not allow this team to prosper. The only people holding this team back is Stephanie White and the front office. Now, for any of you just joining my channel, this is Ashley Gloss. She's a WNBA official and certified Caitlin Clark Fever hater. Certified, let me say it again, certified Caitlin Clark Fever hater. To remind you all, in case you have missed it, this is Ashley Gloss in the Connecticut game when that fiasco broke out with J.C. Sheldon. Caitlin Clark is going to go around during a timeout, hyping up the crowd. And what is Ashley Gloss doing? Her and another official are trying to get the coaching staff to get Caitlin Clark back to the huddle. The game is out of hand. The Fever is like beating the brakes off Connecticut. Okay? And what are the officials worried about? Ashley Gloss worried about? What is the focus of her attention? What is she fixated on during a timeout? Caitlin Clark hyping up the crowd. This is Ashley Gloss. And I'm not saying this to make excuses for the Fever lack of play during the last game last night against the Atlanta Dream. I'm giving you an idea what the Fever is up against every night when you have these type of officials. It's a certain group of officials that you just know they got it in for the Fever because of who they are and what they represent. It's tragic when this mentality is permeated throughout the W. And I don't think these people have the capacity to compartmentalize their ideologies to referee a game objectively. This is just my opinion. You see more calls in certain situations made against the Fever than you probably see on most nights in the W. And with these certain, when you see this officiating crew or a person in this officiating crew, I want you to observe their demeanor and their conduct during the game. And are the calls legitimate or are they phantom? I'm not making excuses for the L the Fever took last night. I'm just saying with all of these obstacles that they face from their own front office and head coach, the W front office and officiating crews, the Fever don't have a lot of margin for error. You have to take advantage of your opportunities to score points when you get them, because they're not going to give them to you. It is going to take, just like the reckless closeout. The reckless closeout is the most idiotic call in the W. You have to land on a player's foot to get a reckless closeout in the W. Only in the W, Fever Nation, only in the W. Do you know what that means? If you have to land on a player's foot, yes, you almost have to risk injury to get a reckless closeout in the W. This is how idiotic this WNBA front office is. The gross palpable levels of ineptitude that permeates throughout this league, beginning with Kathy Engelbert and spreading out into the league offices and onto the floor through officiating, is alarming. It is alarming. This is what the Fever and moreover Caitlin Clark is up against on a nightly basis. This is what she has to endure on a nightly basis. And look at the calls that she experienced last night when Jordan Canada fell into her and just fell down. And they bailed her out with a call. She was infuriated. Stephanie White wouldn't even challenge the play because she hates Caitlin Clark. She doesn't like Caitlin Clark. And let's stop faking. This is why Stephanie White will never excel as a head coach, because she's fake. I might call her Fakeany White, because she pretends to act like she's a Caitlin Clark fan. How could you dislike a player of this magnitude on your roster? Only Stephanie White. Only Stephanie White thinks like this. Raven Johnson had 2 consecutive turnovers in the game. Now you see, she pulled her out and she didn't play the rest of the night after them 2 turnovers because the experiment was going awry. It wasn't working. They hadn't worked on it enough. They have to go back to the drawing board. But yet, this is what Clark has to endure. Now, think about this. I guess it took them 3 seasons to figure out, let's get her in foul trouble. That's how we'll control her play and her minutes in certain aspects of the game. And Stephanie White is totally on board with it, because that helps her take her out the game, because, the fans will be asking, well, hey, Stephanie, why aren't you giving her more playing time? Well, she's in foul trouble. We don't want to risk her getting another foul. And that makes sense. It is plausible. So the referees are in on it too. And Stephanie White is a partner in crime with the officiating. She never challenges the calls against Caitlin Clark. And they're so obvious. And that's why the hate runs so deep with Stephanie White, which is why I say again, Stephanie, step down. You and Lynn Dunn, get out of the game. You all are a detriment to the game. If you want to give back to women's professional basketball, quit. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. You all have a blessed day and holiday. I'm out.